Copycat, 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 copycat.
N to the is O, V to the is O. Crap, this isn't really helping the copycat argument, is it?
This is a 1965 Chevy II. 2 isn't the model of this car. The full designation is Make Chevrolet, Model Chevy II, Trim Level Nova. The Nova name was, until 1968, conjoined to the Chevy II, representing its highest trim level with the biggest available engine for that year. In 1969, with the muscle car era reaching peak displacement, the Nova name broke off onto its own to become its own muscle car. But this is still 1965. This first generation Chevrolet Chevy II Nova was just a family car. 5 years prior, in 1960, Chevrolet's only budget family car was the then complex, rear-engine, flat-six, air-cooled Corvair. A divine piece of engineering, sure, but to your average American consumer who just wanted a car, just a simple car that was cheap to fix and uncomplicated, well, they didn't want a Corvair. They wanted a Falcon. They went to Ford because Ford gave them the ultimate regular American car, and GM was losing market share and needed their own simple, basic econobox. But how do you design, prototype, set up a production line, and bring a car to market in a year and a half? Well, how do you pass a test when you studied the wrong chapter? You cheat! General Motors copied the Falcon. This isn't China-level copyright ignoring shenanigans. No, GM cleverly found a way to cheat within the rules. Now, it isn't a one-to-one copy. The instrument cluster is different, the roofline is different, the Chevy II's wheelbase is a half an inch different than the Falcon, ooh. It has reverse lights, ooh, and a fuel filler on the side rather than the rear. But come on, it's the same car. This is the 4-door sedan model, but the Chevy II also came as a 2-door coupe, a 2-door convertible, and a 4-door station wagon. And you got 5 choices of engines over the years. You could have a 153 cubic inch or 2.5 liter 4-cylinder. You could have a 194 cubic inch or 3.18 liter inline 6, which is what this car has. You could have a 230 cubic inch or 3.8 liter inline 6. You could have a 283 cubic inch 4.6 liter V8, which was introduced in 1964, making 195 horsepower. Or if you really wanted to, you could have the big one, the 327 cubic inch or 5.3 liter V8, making 300 horsepower. And you had 3 choices for transmissions. You could have a 3-speed manual, you could have a 4-speed manual, or you could have a 2-speed Power Glide automatic, which is what this car has. Seatbelts were available in the front, but not available for the back. This 194 cubic inch straight 6 has a single barrel carburetor with a bunch of blocked off accessory ports that were, I have no idea what they do. Electric windshield wipers, oh, look at you, fancy Dan. Chevy II, Falcon, Chevy II, Falcon. The more you look, the more these cars look the same. But GM improved the trunk. Look at this. Look how the trunk of the Chevy II is cut down into the rear of the bodywork. Falcon isn't like that. That is a good modern design. Most cars in the 80s didn't do that. Some cars into the 90s didn't do that. This allows you to get stuff out of the trunk without having to lift it up and over 6 inches of lumbar ruining, spine compressing, chiropractor funding bodywork. Look at all modern cars. All modern cars do that. And they were doing this in 1965 and no one really noticed. Now the Falcon can't do that, partly because the metal fuel filler neck is right there in the way. Driving dynamics of a Chevy II are improved over what the stock Falcon was. The way you drive a Chevy II in stock form, especially with a straight 6 and a 2-speed Power Glide, is to just put your foot on the floor and mash. It's fun, it's the same idea as a scooter. Full throttle. You need to pull out and just step on the gas. You get a bunch of you get a surge of torque and then nothing. So when you got to merge on the highway, foot to the floor immediately. And the 2-speed Power Glide, GM just makes better transmissions. What can I say? They're better than the 2-speed Ford-O-Matic. Maybe the Cruise-O-Matic, well, that's 3 speeds, but by that time you're talking about the TH series of transmissions from GM, and in stock form, this car leans. You take the corner, hang on, kids, here we go. Bah! Car leans to one side. Now, these wheels, they don't belong here. It should have had this sort of dog dish style. Solid wheel, Steelies. Somewhere in its past, it got bigger wheels, got fatter tires, as it should have. I think these are 7 inches wide. It will hang on in a way the original one won't. But it still has mechanical drums all the way around. So that's 2 feet on that brake pedal and stomp to stop. The 194 cubic inch engine is comparable to Ford's 200 Powermaster, but most Falcons still had the 170 cubic inch. So the Chevy II is known to be a quicker car, by marketing. But you gotta have ice water in your veins not to love 60s American cars. The slow family cars are just as entertaining as the muscle cars. You can stretch out in that front seat because there's no console. I mean, you have to hang on to bits of the car because there's no bolstering to keep you in place in front of the wheel. But the blind spots are minimal. They're as minimal as the safety requirements on this thing. So you're always paying attention. You have to pay attention to what every other knucklehead on the road is doing, because the only thing that's going to save you when driving a classic car is that gray stuff between your ears. You have to predict the mistakes that other people are about to make before they even know they're going to make them. And you can have more fun driving this car at 50 miles an hour than you can driving that new turbocharged Honda Civic at 80 miles an hour. You arrive at your destination and go, wow, we're alive. And the car didn't explode. And if you look around, you could have a car like this for like $5,000. It's leaking a little bit of oil. It leaks a little antifreeze. But the thing about 60s cars are, they may break, but they're never broken. Now, this car has a radio delete, but if you had a radio in it, listen to classic rock. It never sounds so right coming out of one of these things. Just a little bit tinny in the speakers. A whole bunch of cables and stuff are just rattling away behind the metal dash. And once you get back home with one of these things, you're a little bit tired. You've concentrated in a way you never have before. You're not answering the phone when you drive a classic car. There is only the moment, and this moment, and then the next moment, but they're not quite the same. Even little bits in between a journey start to become different. But these regular cars of yesterday tell you a lot about the planning involved when it came to road trips. It's difficult to drive a stock regular car from decades past and use it as your regular car. I don't recommend it. Even with a resto mod like the Vagabond Falcon, it's difficult for me to daily it because I need to make sure the oil level is correct, the transmission level, the coolant level. Have any nuts rattled loose? How am I feeling? What are the weather conditions? Did I bring extra clothes in case the temperature drops? Because the heaters on these things, they'll keep you alive, but they won't keep you comfortable. Did you bring spare light bulbs? Did you bring spare spark plugs? Do you have a spare ignition coil? Do you have a spare starter relay? You may need those things. Is your AAA paid up? Do you have the names and numbers of anywhere between where you're beginning your road trip and where you're ending it? These are all the things our grandparents had to deal with that we don't. But I still encourage you to find an old classic American car and at least try. You will experience the deep richness of the landscape in a way you never have before. It's okay to idealize the past. It's okay to want to grab and touch and hold on to one. It's okay to believe things in the past were better than they really were. Because the good parts of the past continue and are polished into the present. We've all wondered what it was like in the 60s. Well, you can climb into one of these boxes and experience it. Because 50 years of history went by on this bench seat. Through these windows, people saw love, joy, wars, revolution, sex, kids, death, music, movies, crisis, and joy. And the all-metal construction of these cars means that they're going to survive when the plastic 90s cars start decaying and breaking apart. There's a permanence to these machines. I've said it before, but maintained, these metal boxes will outlive us. So get in and drive, because 60s American cars are the closest thing we have to real time machines.
I like your face, I like your hair, I like the things you say you do to me. If I were never there. And of the things you say you'll do, you're gonna get your dad to let me drive his Chevy II. The distances and spaces in between. You go to USC and I'm stuck at IUP. Long distance love is like a project car, but while the Nova isn't new, it's reminding me of you, 'cause you're just different kinds of stars.
Moist. Moist. Oh, wetness.